So this is Dean Withers. He has a new video out. And the reason I wanted to cover this is, one, we're not exactly Dean Withers fans here. I think he is too liberal for me to find him interesting. He's also pretty young. And not that that's technically a bad thing, but, you know, Dean tends to be a debate bro. I'm not a fan of Dean. But he has a new video out. I just realized he has a YouTube channel. I didn't even know that. Or if I did, I didn't process it because I always think of him as a TikToker. It's that I left these MAGA Karen speechless. And a big part of me has been re-examining this idea of a Karen because it does sound pretty... It plays into the misogyny belief that women are just crazy. And they're just always, you know, and I agree. I've used the word Karen. I'm like, oh my God, you're being such a Karen. But really, like, let's talk about that a little bit. And let's see, like, is that true? Is it just a good... I mean, obviously he's using it for clickbait, right? But like, is this helpful? It's interesting. Let's see. Let's see. I'm sure these women will be very frustrating since they're going to be conservative, but let's see.
Excuse me, ma'am. We're with Patriot News. You look like a real patriot. Do you mind stopping for a quick interview? Oh, fantastic. Well, welcome. What's your name?
Thank you. I'm Lindy Ann Hobley from South Africa.
Really? And you're here today to celebrate Charlie Kirk and support Trump?
Well, I'm here because I'm a patriot, which I believe a patriot is someone who's willing to fight for their country because they believe in it.
Okay. So a patriot, somebody who's willing to fight for the country. Do you think Trump's a patriot?
I do believe he's a patriot. That's why a lot of people don't like him. Those who don't really like to, you know, we have a big, coming from South Africa, I know what a communist takeover looks like. And so it's very obvious that they've been trying to take over the country. People were sold out to China and to other countries to try and get them to come in and really come and destroy this country. And so I think it's just people that say, hey, we want our Christian Judeo values here, and we're going to stand up and we're going to keep fighting for those.
Okay. So broadly, what does a communist takeover of America look like?
Well, communism is where someone believes that they're higher up than the rest of the people, and they're trying to make everyone subservient to them, you know? If you've been around the world, I mean, it's pretty obvious where people...
Look, I don't know much about communism and capitalism, but I'm pretty sure that's capitalism. I'm pretty sure that's a capitalism.
People have come in and they've really ruined the country. They're all about themselves. I mean, I would say it's like high-level narcissism.
Okay, so here's my question. If a communist takeover of a country looks like a high-level narcissist that wants to gain control and power, then make others subservient to themselves, I'm not gonna lie, Lindy Ann, I think that you just perfectly described Trump. I mean, let's think about it. First and foremost, high-level narcissist. Of course, the multi-billionaire guy who...
He's doing a gotcha. He's doing a little bit of a gotcha. I don't love the gotcha take, but I have noticed myself getting burnt out on watching men like trick people or be highly sarcastic with them in public. I used to love how The Daily Show did it, and I still kind of like how The Daily Show does it. But this energy is like not my favorite, but it's okay. I'm not judging it too harshly. It definitely works. It's very clickbaity, but it's like the point of this conversation is not to help conservatives. It's to make the left feel good about themselves or the liberals feel good about themselves, right? So as long as we understand we're watching this content to feel cathartic and not to actually like change anyone's mind, I think that's fine generally. Is it the best?
owns private estates, and many of our, who owns private estates like Mar-a-Lago down in Florida, who spent his whole lifetime saying that he is holier than thou. I mean, literally in some scenarios, comparing himself to Jesus would fulfill that role of being a narcissist. And then just
missed what I said about what those people, the heart of the leader is not for the people. And it's been very obvious. So for me, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. When I came to America, I wasn't pro anything. I'm pro the kingdom of God. I'm here to see his kingdom manifest. And I have,
you know, this is, I think, what's really important about what I think a lot of these women will talk about today, because I have a feeling they're all going to be Christian women, is again, Christians will tell you to fear the Muslims, but what you really should fear is patriarchy. And what you should really not, actually, you shouldn't even fear anything. You should prepare and be wise about it and discern. But there is like, this is getting more intense. And I'll just tell you from personal experience with my own family, girls, it's getting worse. It's getting bad. It's getting bad. I got the tea about how Christmas went because, you know, I'm not engaging right now with my parents unless they're able to have a better conversation about and girls getting worse. The reports I got from the siblings, oh, it's getting worse. And I'm like, oh, how can it get worse? But it is getting worse. And I'm like, this is it, baby. This is it. Everything they say about, like, you know, being afraid of people and being hateful and bigoted, girl, it's getting worse. Okay. And I just sat there. I'm like, this is it. This is just what it is. Like, can people learn? Not unless they want to. You know, Chad said when your siblings report back, she literally, my sister calls me. She's like, do you want to know? Is it going to be upsetting? Should I tell you? I was like, tell me, I'm ready. She goes, well, you'll feel validated because it's pretty bad. I was like, tell me. And I was like, Girl, it is worse than I thought. I mean, it's not that surprising, but it's like worse than I thought. And I was like, it's so bad. Like, I can't even, you know, that stereotype of conservatives want to protect the kids, but then victim blame children? Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And I was like, and that's it. Those are your Christian values, to blame the children instead of the predators. Whoa, that's it, baby. We've made our decision. It's too late, girls. Like, when you're that stubborn and that old, that's it. And these are some of the most, like, you see the beauty in your family, like, you see the beauty in people, and then they say the ugliest shit you've ever heard come out of a person's mouth. Nothing worse than a person you know in a certain light who's the kindest, sweetest, most generous, say the ugliest shit you've ever seen come out of a person's. And you're just like, and that is why I say philosophical evil. That is what philosophical evil is. It is like, you won't even take ownership of how ugly that sentence was. You go to church. You want to go to confession and tell the priest what you just said. You know, that was so gross. And that's the point. That's why I have a feeling a lot of these women will be adjacent to that bubble. And that's what I want you guys to recognize. Like, what I recognize in my parents is like, I'm so grateful for the healing I've done and the therapy I've gone to. And now I can just see like my parents as like what they are, which is like people with flaws on a journey. And I can only ever do the work to make sure that I don't become stagnant. And I hate to say it, but they're like the goal of kind of like what you don't want to be when it comes to bigotry. And it's really important that we use these people as examples, even the ones we love the most, to say even your loved ones can be this way. So we have to do something about it. Now, the one piece of good news I got out of Christmas, which is great to hear, is I had whispered in my brother's ear a better way of communicating his point so he doesn't end up using language that dog whistles like white supremacy or negative, because like white supremacists are using this language to dog whistle. And then the family was having a discussion and they were all being very like, you know, white supremacist, lenient, oh, he's not a Nazi, that's just the media kind of language. And then my brother was like, actually, and he said something and my sister went, oh, I know that was Brittany's influence. And I sat there and I'm like, that's all we can do, girl. All we can do is influence and give tools and see who uses it and see who doesn't. Not surprised that this particular brother used the tool, but also very impressed all the same because he didn't have to. He was the only person pushing back on everybody. And I sat there and I was like, I'll take it. I'll take the win because I think that's what it is. That's our job. Our job is to put our resources into people who are listening and willing and to ignore everybody else. And at the same time, I think all of these people need housing and education and healthcare. Okay? So that's what it is. That's the good news out of Christmas, is that I do think it matters for the few that are listening, but everybody else, it is what it is, you know?
A dream in 2020 that President Trump was in the Oval Office praying, and this was confirmed by prophets before. I didn't care if he was a Cyrus, if he had personal issues. God showed me in a dream that he was the one that he was going to use to turn this country around, to bring revival. In my dream, there was President Trump. God showed me what looked political, what looked like a Satan's takeover will be a revival.
Girl, with peace and love, with so much compassion, with so much respect, she sounds like those guys at the street corners who are like, the sky is falling, God is coming. Ma'am.
And that dream actually manifested at Charlie Kirk's memorial. So I know you introduce yourself as Patriot News, but clearly you're here just to stir things up. I want to tell you, Jesus is king. He's the way out. My focus is not President Trump. It's not this one or that one. We need the power of God to manifest on the earth again, and that is why we're here. If anything, Charlie Kirk said, I want to be remembered for my courageous faith. And as a Christian, I see people jump out of wheelchairs, blind I see. I never believed in God. And now I have a passion to see other people come into the revelation and the freedom which Jesus paid for. God just uses these people, but it's all about Jesus, and that's why I'm here. And I believe, and if you don't know Jesus, I want to encourage you. He walked into my room. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. I was wilder than the zoo, but he picked me up. He turned me around and he gave me a new identity. And that's what Jesus can do for you. Bless you guys.
I just have one last question. One last question. I'm very familiar.
I actually saw cancer healed last night. I had a word of knowledge. I had a fire in my neck, and I told the pastor, I feel fire. He said, that's where I have a tumor. Prayed for him. His pain was instantly gone. My father was an atheist, high-level narcissist, billionaire, and guess what? He saw deaf ears open right in front of him in the street, and I led him to Jesus 4 days later. No one is too far away. This is about revival. This is about such a time as this. Get off your butt. Go preach the gospel. Heal the sick. Cast out demons. That's what we're here for. That's what Christianity looks like. Not a fight on the street. We got bigger fish to fry. The kingdom is coming. Are you going to be a part of it or not? Bless you.
I have two questions.
Whoa! Okay, first of all, that girl, she was here with, you know what? That is some passion, girl. I love I love her passion, you know? But my queen, okay? She was really focused. You know, we love a good focus, okay? But also, you know, when she said my father is a billionaire, I was like, Elon? Is Elon her dad? You know what? She was going for it. Honestly, she was smart. She picked it up really fast though, right? Discourse said, I've seen people use Karen to the point of white women's entitlement. I'm not familiar with Bubbles using it for misogyny, so I'm confused by the insinuation that it's misogynistic, unless you're talking about white people using it in a way I'm unfamiliar with. As far as I know, Karen was meant to describe like a white woman who, you know, the kind of white woman that just like complains for no reason, is aggressive with like workers, who is entitled, who does all that stuff. But as far as I know, it's now universally being used for everybody. Women who are like bitchy, women who are annoying, your friends who are like, oh, you're being such a Karen. As far as I know, Karen has now become just a universal way to say that type of woman, a type of woman who's annoying, right? So though we know what a Karen is when we see it, it's now just become a universal, like, you're being such a Karen, like you're ruining the moment for us. So I do think it's transformed to be like very adjacent to misogyny, in my opinion, and like a very like, you know what I mean? But him even using it as an example of that. He says, oh, these are like MAGA Karens speechless. So he's using it in this way right now, right? Because why is that a Karen? Right? Like, what about her is the Karen stereotype? She's not. But he's calling her a Karen, which is the form of misogyny that I'm talking about. Why is this woman a Karen? Because she just said what she said. Isn't she just a conservative? Isn't she just Christian? Isn't she just... And that's why I'm thinking, okay, now the word Karen is for women I don't like. I don't like her. She's a Karen. Which, to be fair, we already saw. Remember when everyone was talking about, like, people being Karens, but they were actually having like medical health problems? I think it's like one of those things where like you think someone's just like causing a ruckus or someone's having an issue, but obviously someone's having like a mental health problem. We have to just be able to discern what we're looking at, you know? But that was a lot, you know what I mean? So we don't agree with anything she just said, obviously, right? But yeah, chat said, I think any negative term regarding women will turn misogynistic eventually, same as pick me. Yeah, I agree with that. Exactly. The word pick me is so good if you really think of the being a pick me is so psychologically devastating. Any woman that is a pick me is a victim of patriarchy. It is so devastating. Right? To be a pick me, it means you have so much internalized misogyny, so much hate for yourself that you are being a literal pick me. That's why when people use it just willy nilly, I was like, that's, you know, it was such a good term that could have helped so many people. And same like Karen, not so much. Karen, I feel like was just a very specific type of person we know, you know, but now it's become this over like this use of like women I don't like, right? Chat says there's a male version called the Darren or Kyle. I think I've heard those two, like the male versions. So again, also I just want to say the opposite of like a woman is not a man. The opposite of a man is not a woman. That's my new theme for 2026. Thank you.
Before you head off, do you mind if I ask you just 2 questions before you head off here, ma'am?
I'm so good, thank you. You need to give your life to Jesus and do something.
Well, I think that Trump does. I mean, he was held civilly liable for
Did she just touch him?
Off here, ma'am.
I'm so good, thank you. You need to give your life to Jesus. And
ma'am, keep your Jesus hands away from me. You know, she just thought she was putting the spirit of God in him, you know?
Well, I think that Trump does. I mean, he was held civilly liable for the essay of a woman. Is that Christ-like? I guess we'll never learn. Well, I was asking her, you know, she was saying that, you know, there's a Christian...
You just asked her?
Well, I informed her that in 2023, Trump was held civilly liable for essaying a woman named Agent Carroll. I asked her if that's Christ-like.
Oh, now you're asking me. Okay, repeat the question.
I mean, do you agree with a lot of what she had to say? I mean, I heard you clapping in the background saying that we need a Christian revival, we need Jesus put back into this country, and Donald Trump is helping with that. Do you agree with her?
I have less to say about him and more of what she was saying about what she believes. I mean, you can tell that those are her godly thoughts coming through her. So yeah, I liked what she had to say.
Do you like Trump?
Do I like Trump? See, these are the questions where you get put in the corner and then you're like pegged with all these labels and everything, and that's what's wrong. Go on.
I'm just asking you if you support the president, that's all.
Oh, do I support our president?
Yeah.
I mean, people will run their mouth, but
What?
I feel protected.
You feel protected by Trump?
She feels protected. Okay. I think this is really, really important to pay attention to. The feeling of being protected is actually so important under patriarchy, right? Like, that's the thing. That is very normal, and that is very important. Like, we all want to feel safe. We all want to feel protected. And it's interesting what situation makes you feel protected. And that's the question we should ask ourselves. Why does this situation make me feel protected? What about Trump's administration makes you feel protected? And that's what allows you to deconstruct, if you can, why I feel protected by this thing. And that's what I think women should pay attention to. And look, I understand that under patriarchy, a lot of these women, remember how privileged you are to even be in this audience right now? Because it means you are way past any of this, right? Just to be here in this chat means don't even have to deconstruct. Imagine you're starting from where they are and you have to deconstruct all of that shit. Now, of course, a lot of us had, but let's be real. Like, if I'm being completely transparent, guys, even when I say I used to be a conservative, I was never like this, right? Like, even the worst shit I ever said about women, I was still doing the opposite. I was still a conservative fighting for gay people and trans people. Like, I never had to deconstruct whether or not trans people were valid or gay people were valid. I was a gay kid. So it's like a completely different experience being like 45 years old and realizing, like, do I not need a man? You know what I mean? Like, just like put that into perspective. But it makes sense why women under patriarchy have been told their whole life, men are dangerous, men are predators, right? We've actually been talking about this in my own family because we talked about this yesterday on stream a little bit, but like, my brother doesn't want the kids to be alone with any adults without another witness there, but specifically, especially men. And it's funny that you won't let your kids be alone with a man, but you'll let your daughters marry a man. And the question is like, why are you so afraid of men and yet men are our protectors? What is this weird dissonance that conservatives experience where men are our protectors and they're our predators? And it's like, we need to talk about men as a system, as a group, instead of men, the individual. And let's talk about why we have so much fear. And we should have a lot of fear, right? You're going to be hurt by people you know. It's going to be a man you know, probably. So it also is great that we want to protect kids from male relatives, from male people, from that. But it's not just men, is it? But especially because it's men. But also, when do you learn to trust the men in your life? And if you can never trust any of the men in your life because they're men, then why would we then say men are our protectors? There's like this weird journey that we all have to go on to really like, what does this mean? How do I feel? And look, I feel this way with like really turfy or turfy adjacent female groups, I'm going to put female in quotations here, where they're like, I'm just building a gym for girls, or I just want a place for women. I just want a place for this, which is funny because from a queer perspective, I just want a space for people who have deconstructed gender and expectations of gender so we can all feel comfortable going to the gym with glitter on. Like, I just want a space where we can be in the changing room with people that have deconstructed, but have like really deconstructed, that have really worked on it, that are really neutral towards naked bodies, or really able and capable to understand the context of a social situation, or, you know, at least do their work and due diligence of like understanding, like read the fucking room. And I say that as an autistic person, but also read the goddamn room. You know, we've all made those mistakes, but like read the room, everybody. And so it's like, yeah, like I would love to live in a world where those things are possible. And I do think with the right group of people, they are. And sometimes, you know, somebody comes in, you got to kick them out. But like in general, it's interesting what we think our goals are when protecting people. Oh, I'm going to protect people, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to protect, this is what I'm going to do. And that's why I think it's interesting that she feels protected, but valid. But also, let's talk about it, you know?
I feel protected.
I don't think that any American woman should feel protected by Trump.
Well, good thing you're not a woman.
Well, considering the fact that in 2005 he sat down with Howard Stern and boasted about unconsensually walking into the dressing rooms of naked women and girls.
You have someone who's like, you're trying to say what I should believe in when you're not a woman, so you have no clue.
Well, I mean, I think that men can say that it's wrong to essay or exploit women.
Whatever you choose.
Well, is it fair for me to believe that it's wrong to exploit people, including women?
Exploit people. Go on. What does that look like?
A good example of that would be a man abusing his position of power over the position of vulnerability that a woman is in to further unconsensual sexual conduct.
Do you know what it's like to be a woman?
I don't need to know what it's like to live as a woman in order to know that it's wrong to exploit them.
Every day you go out into public, you are exposed by how you present yourself, how you respond to things, the comments, the looks, everything. It's not one man that is the problem. It's maturity. It's a level of maturity. So
wait, can we just agree that a man is a problem when they exploit women?
women exploit themselves by how they present themselves.
Okay, so you're basically saying that if a man furthers unconsensual
Wait, she was so close though. Listen.
is a problem when they
Maturity, it's the comments, the looks. Every click, you are exposed by how you present yourself.
Listen.
Every day you go out into public, you are exposed by how you present yourself, how you respond to things, the comments, the look.
Exactly, girl. Because of the patriarchy. Let's deconstruct it. Wait, am I stupid? I feel like she's so close. Girl, you're so close. And then
Everything. It's not one man that is the problem. It's
it's the patriarchy. It's not one man that's the problem. It's the system. She's so close.
maturity. It's a level of maturity. So
Wait, can we just
Damn, and then she pivoted.
agree that a man is a problem when they exploit women?
women exploit themselves
And she lost it. Women exploit themselves.
by how they present themselves.
Okay, so you're basically saying that if a man furthers unconsensual conduct with a woman, that it's the woman's fault.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, I said, can we agree that it's wrong when a man exploits women? And then you said women exploit themselves.
I'm saying it's not like one person. It's not one gender that does something wrong.
Wait, all that I'm saying
It's how
is
you
if
present yourself.
all that I'm saying,
It's an individual thing.
all that I'm asking here is if an
Yeah.
individual man rapes a woman, can we blame that man for raping the woman?
These are the questions that then you get stuck in the corner.
Wait.
Blame that man for raping.
Individual thing.
All that I'm asking here is if an
Yeah.
individual man rapes a woman, can we blame that man for raping the woman?
These are the questions that then you get stuck in the corner.
This is crazy. I'm just asking you if we could blame rapists for raping.
You're trying to get me in a corner to answer a question that I'm not going to sit here and generalize every little situation, every little scenario.
Oh, girly, it was not a generalization.
I'm so sorry.
You can't take a terrible situation and then clump it as like boom, boom,
No,
boom.
just listen to yourself. I'm gonna be honest. You sound insane
Okay.
if you
No. See, this is why I don't like watching men talk, first of all, ever. But I don't like watching Dean talk in particular because he's so young. But like, you sound insane. I feel like can women, we need to find women who's a woman who's doing on the street stuff? There's got to be a few, right? But maybe not. It's kind of hard, actually. But like, I want them to ask, like, this whole, like, you feel insane. Even the way he's like reacting, he thinks he's on like, he's like over exaggerating what is this, a Mr. Beast video? You know what I mean? He's like, I don't like it.
can't say with a straight face very directly that a rapist is to blame for raping.
It's to blame for.
Yeah, if somebody grapes somebody else, you are crazy if you can't automatically and immediately turn around and say that it's their fault. It's never the fault of a victim, okay? It's always the fault of the perpetuator. I feel like this is common sense. I learned this in 3rd grade when the nun came into the classroom and showed us the dolls, but then yet here we are, 2025, I'm talking to somebody that maybe looks 27 years old, and you can't tell me that you think it's wrong for a rapist to rape. You can't tell me that you think a rapist is to blame for that misconduct and violence. This is crazy.
You know why it's not crazy? Because you're talking to someone who's gone through this experience.
You better be nice to her, bro. See, now I gotta defend these conservative women because I don't like the way he's talking to her.
Obviously, I would blame the person that did that to you. They were at fault. They were in the wrong, and hopefully you would too.
Blame that, but I also look back at that experience knowing what was going on, and I put myself in a vulnerable position where I didn't have full control over the results of what came to be. So to sit here and put all these labels and peg all these people, that's also incorrect and wrong.
Oh. Okay. The conservative bubble is really just like so bad for your mental health. Oh my God. Oh, it's so bad for you. It's so bad for you. Habibi.
Okay, well, I appreciate you for the time, and I'm sorry that happened to you. You have a good one.
Have a great day.
You as well. Do you support Trump?
Depends on what, it's very, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, that's, like with the AI, if he's federalizing AI, that's one thing I'm for sure not against. I do believe in state rights, and I do believe that, like, genuinely with state rights, then democracy works better. Especially if we're going to have a democracy where my vote or my voice is impactful, that's more likely to happen at a state or even, like, city level first.
Yeah. Do you think that a woman's right to vote should be up to the state?
Yeah, sure. Let's leave it up to the state.
Girl, You know what's so funny? You know what's interesting about conservatives? Okay, here's a question for my audience. Do you think okay, how do we contend with the reality that we don't believe we always know better, but also the government doesn't always know better, but also we sometimes have to put laws in place because people don't know better, like gun laws? It's like, I want to give everybody guns, but you're not responsible with them. So you can't have them. And I know people are like, you're treating like adults like they're kids. Well, to be fair, and that's all of us, right? So she's thinking, because I know I used to be in the conservative bubbles. They're thinking, and I know you think it is a contradiction of theirs, that they're like, we trust ourselves to know what to do, right? And yet they want to put heavier regulation from the government on us, right? So there's like this weirdness that happens, this like confusion that happens between the two, the thoughts, because they don't understand that from the progressive perspective. Like, if we're so pro freedom, then why are we like regulating so much? But then the conservatives do the same thing. The question is like, where do we want government intervention? When do we want the government to take kids away? When do we want the government to imprison people? When do we want the government? And what we're arguing about is that. And the issue is like, in what world, as a woman, do you want to leave it up to other people to decide if you have the right to vote? And it's funny that men never get this question. When do we ever have the conversation about whether or not men should be able to vote? Do you know what I'm saying? And that's the problem, okay? So obviously, I think in a truly wise and deconstructed world, we would accept that all of us are flawed and some of us will fuck up, and even the best intentioned people will have to go on timeout. But we are animals on a planet, evolved over billions of years, and none of us are wise enough to ever be the dictator, and none of us are good enough to ever say that we have the power over other people's bodies or rights. And yet some of us have to intervene when real harm is happening. And those things, that has to be the focus. Are we intervening because real harm is happening, or are we intervening because we're afraid? And those are two different things, you know? Right? Okay, chat, you're being a little crazy right now. You said adults should be treated like kids. They've had their freedom and proved that they can't be trusted with it. And then Chet says, honestly, I'm beginning to believe this. Guys, you are not accepting that you are animals on a planet. When you start talking like this, you are giving into fascism. That is fascist. Like, that is what fascism is. You're playing into this idea. Like, who? What do you mean? Trusted by who? Okay? We want the most freedom possible while giving everybody those rights. The reason states' rights don't make sense is because you're taking away people's rights with states' rights. You're not actually giving people more freedom. If you leave it up to the states, you're denying people more freedom. We know this is true, right? That's why it's a bad idea, okay? Chet said it's authoritarian, not fascist per se. Okay, fine. You can argue systems. Like, call it what you want to call it, girl. Ain't no way, okay? And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can make a decision. Doesn't authoritarianism lead to fascism, though? Isn't it all the same at the end? Either way, it doesn't matter. The point is I want you to understand that, like, that idea is already you thinking you're better than other people. I do not think I am better than other people enough to control what they do with their lives and their bodies. I don't want to control what you do with your life or your body. And I know you're flawed. I see humanity. It's always been this way, right? So, like, again, even having the thought, like, adults are so silly, we need to do these things, is the problem. That's what everyone thinks. That's what conservatives think. And I'm saying, stop thinking you're better than other people. Stop thinking that you are the one who gets to dictate what freedoms people have. Okay? And think about how to give people the most freedom while putting in the right forms of government to help reduce harm. We're helping to reduce harm. It's not about freedom for freedom's sake. It's about reducing harm. Okay?
I would be okay with that. I know that's kind of, might make me unpopular, but sure.
So what state are you from?
I'm from Minnesota.
So if everybody in Minnesota voted for women to lose their right to vote, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah,
So
I think I could.
If you lost your right to vote, you wouldn't care.
No, I think, I know that sounds insane, but genuinely, less pressure off me. Then I get to criticize more, I won't
What if everybody in Minnesota wanted slavery back?
Then that would be up to the men if I don't have a right to vote.
But do you think that states should be able to legislate on the legality of slavery?
Why are we bringing back slavery?
Is she memeing, bro?
That's not an answer to the question that I asked. Should states have the ability to vote for the legalization of slavery?
I don't know. I think
You don't know? Wait, so I just want to clarify this. Okay, the Union knew that they didn't want states to have that ability, and that's what led to the Civil War.
okay.
Hey, chatter. Don't say stuff like she doesn't deserve the right to vote. Is that serious? Am I taking you out of context? Guys, everyone, these are not rights that are up for debate. You cannot take away people's right to vote. You cannot take away felons' right to vote. You should not be able to take away anyone's right to vote. No one should have the right to be their vote taken away. Not pedophiles, not murderers, not white supremacists, nobody. Okay? Chat said it was a joke. Okay, noted. But like, that's the problem. Is like, no one should, the fact that felons can't vote is the most disgusting display of quote liberty I've ever seen in my life. This is your liberty? This is crazy.
So who do you think should have won the Civil War? The people that didn't want states to have the ability to legalize slavery, the Union, or the people that did want states to have the ability to legalize slavery, the Confederacy? Who should have won?
I don't know.
So it's just a real toss-up?
For the Civil War, kind of. Yeah,
Just
I
kinda
wasn't
like-
around. I wasn't around during the Civil War, so I really have like minute opinion about it because
So-
I wasn't there.
Yeah, you're not really sure, about the Civil War because you weren't around at the time or weren't alive. Were you alive during the Holocaust?
No, I wasn't.
So are you also kind of unsure if the Holocaust was good or bad?
I mean, I don't think it was good or bad. I think it was bad, but I don't think that it impacts me as the way it does a Jewish community.
Wait,
person.
but you're telling us that you do know that like the Holocaust was bad, even though you weren't alive at the time. But then you just argued that you don't know if the people who wanted to turn black people into property, systemically limiting any human rights from being attained by themselves just to further their own socioeconomic positions were wrong, or bad. We're bad.
Yeah, I think using any person as like 3/4 of a one person is bad. I think, especially as a Christian, we should like see everyone as equal.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay, I want us to both look in the camera while we just quickly go over this. You're Christian,
Trying to be, yes.
and you'd be okay with your state taking away your right to vote if that's what everyone in the state wanted to do.
If that's what women and men decided and they voted and
What? No, girl. If women decided to take away women's right to vote, I'd be okay with that. That's what she just said. So how do women get to change their mind and take back their right to vote? Do they vote on it later?
women voted to lose the right to vote, then
No, it doesn't. This doesn't require women. Let's just imagine that your state is 53% male, 47% female. If every man in that state voted for women to lose the right to vote, and then you lost your right to vote, you wouldn't care.
I mean, is my right to vote federally or state-wise,
Well, you told us that you'd be okay with states having the ability to ban and restrict women's access to voting, did you not?
Yeah, I'm all for state rights, but if we're talking about women voting, that's under the 19th Amendment, so that's a
You think that
federal...
it should be repealed, though?
That's not what I'm saying.
Doesn't that impede on states' rights?
I don't know. Does it?
Well, it does, because it's a restriction against a right that the state used to have.
Okay, that's the problem with these kinds of videos. Like, you do at some point, to be fair, I think most people would probably have these similar conversations, but it's like, this girl just does not know anything, right? So it feels a little bit like punching down, but then I kind of feel that way about the debate space in general. And that's what makes debate spaces work, is like, you kind of are punching down, but like at the same time, like, she doesn't, you know what I mean? She's like, she's just parroting whatever she probably heard growing up.
That they no longer have. So absolutely the 19th Amendment impedes on states' rights. I just argued that it's a good impediment. We should impede upon states' rights, and we shouldn't give them the ability to ban women's access to vote.
Like, him featuring this conversation does not make him look any smarter. You look like you're talking to a fifth grader, like, in terms of knowledge. Like, it just makes you look stupid for highlighting this interview. Because, like, but it's not even funny. Like, at least on The Daily Show and, like, Jordan Clapper and stuff, they like, it's a joke, or if they do interviews on the streets, it's like, obviously it's the joke, but like, he's like debate broing them on the street, which feels like really weird.
Voting or black people's access to human rights. So I just want to clarify, I'm going to ask this question again. Please give the same responses that you did earlier. So are you a Christian?
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
And you value states' rights?
Yes, I do.
If everybody in your state voted for women to
Why is he looking at us? Why is he even looking at us right now?
lose the right to vote, would you be okay with that?
I guess, again, it depends on, because it's a federal mandate right now, so it would be Congress that has to vote to lose it, and then it would go to a state. Right?
I'm saying,
So,
right, if the 19th Amendment never existed, if everybody in your state voted for women to lose their right to vote, would you be okay with that?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I genuinely don't know, because I think it would depend on who's running. Everyone's going to feel more confident when it's like someone of their own party or someone of their own position. Like, of course, you're going to feel like, okay, whatever. But I do think that,
Actually, weirdly agree, chat. Chad said these women are being very patient with his tone. Actually, I agree with that. These women are being incredibly graceful and patient with his tone, which is so funny for me to say since I think these women are like their opinions are so bad. But they are like, funny enough, like fighting. They're a little bit like people pleasing, but they're obviously like being very nice, and it's kind of annoying a little bit, you know.
Genuinely, when it comes to like women's rights and things like that, if women didn't have the right to vote.
Well, hold on. Chad said this woman is, but the other woman got activated. But they weren't activated at first. At first, they were like kind of chill, but then they got like nervous and got anxious and they went into it. This girl feels like she smoked a blunt before showing up, which awesome, right? But it's like that kind of stuff that I think is so interesting about like the way people show. Like, I'm sure they know the camera's there. I'm sure they know like, oh, I got to look a certain way. I'm sure they're also thinking like, this is my one chance to get the word of God out, which is why that red dress lady went on. You know what I mean? But it is like sort of interesting. And I think this is where, again, I'm always like looking at patriarchy. Like it will be very rare for me to, because look, at the end of the day, this is still a man, a white man who is using like language that puts women at a disadvantage in order to go viral and make lots of money off of these women. And so a part of me does not respect the hustle. Like a part of me does not respect Dean's hustle whatsoever. The left MAGA Karens, I left MAGA Karens speechless after proving them wrong. It's like, okay, relax with your title. You know, relax. So ultimately, like a part of me knows like what dynamics he is playing into to even exploit these women to begin with to make this video in the first place. Which is why I wanted to talk about this video, because I saw the title and I was like, that's the misogyny. Like that's see these crazy women. These crazy women. And I'm like, see? And then now he's picking like these women, like the other woman. Anytime a woman has this conversation with people and a woman brings up her assault, that should just be the end of the conversation in a big way. Like, hey, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Honestly, I don't think we should be talking about this like in public on camera. Because I almost feel like it's a trauma response from a lot of them to bring it up to say like I've gone through something, but obviously like you haven't had a chance to like you're victim blaming yourself. You're saying you were responsible for your own rape. Like, girl, I respect you too much to put this on camera. Like in some ways, but then the woman would say, don't infantilize me, put it on camera. But you don't have to. It's not their YouTube channel. You know, you can make the decision not to put it up there, you know?
Then what responsibility would I bear for when stuff goes bad, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the thing. That's kind of why.
And I say this now in hindsight. Obviously, I learned that because I was in the debate bubbles for a short time. It was the worst experience of my life, period. It was so bad on you. It was my worst YouTube experience ever. These people do not care about your thoughts. They do not care about your feelings. They do not care about your ideas. They just want to pwn and win. And I know this now. These are things I would do now that I've learned.
It's like,
Yeah, okay.
not like
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna cut this conversation here. I think that it's incredibly harmful and incredibly damaging to suggest that we should all permit and be okay with women losing their right to vote or states having the ability to re-legalize slavery. I also think that it's just insane to say it's a flip of a coin or a toss-up between who is the good guy and who is the bad guy, looking at the Union and the Confederacy. I think we should all be able to fundamentally agree that the Confederacy was in the wrong for.
You see, he's like monologuing at her almost to let us know what he thinks. He's not doing this for her. He's doing it for us, right? Hey, give me your opinion. Okay, well, I think this. Dean, you could have just made a video and stitched her TikToks. You know what I mean?
Wanting to legalize slavery. I think that we should all fundamentally agree that human rights should be protected by the highest level of government possible, so then states that were in the Confederacy don't have the ability to exploit them by legalizing slavery. And especially as you're a Christian, as you claim to praise Jesus and follow the moral teachings of the gospel, it's crazy to assume that you are the one telling me that you'd be okay if the Confederacy won the Civil War, that you'd be okay if states had the ability to legalize slavery, or you'd be okay if you lost your right to vote.
Yeah, but I think we're talking about two different things when you're like slavery versus like women's right to vote. Like one,
That's rights.
Okay, we can both argue that they'd follow under state rights, but you're like, well, you're saying that the Confederacy.
It's because she doesn't understand that taking away your right to vote is a part of like the justification for enslaving people that moves into all of this. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is just you want to watch weird people say weird shit video? This is just like, do you want to watch like people say, you know what I mean? Like, guys, I'm so sorry if anyone is taking her seriously. Like with peace and love. What is she, 19, 20? I don't even take Dean seriously. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't you feel a little too grown to take any of these people seriously? Like, I'm not going to sit here and debate this woman. Be serious. Talk to me when you're serious, please. This is my new expectation for people. Talk to me when you're serious. Go away. And this is what I'm saying. Like, this is not a serious person. This is a young person who has no idea what she's saying. She's parroting whatever she heard. She has no data to back it up. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm not going to make a serious response in this video here, in this stream here, as if, oh, her ideas are seriously needed. Like, we need to have a, come on.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm not for slavery. Can I just make that point blank period? I don't think anyone, like, how about in Dubai? They still have slaves. I'm not for that. I'm not going to go to Dubai.
Libya is a better example. There's an active slave trade in Libya. I appreciate you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good one,
Nice to meet you.
What the fuck was this video? Dean should stick to TikToks. I don't even like his TikToks.
Why these points are important.
But you're not racist, right?
No, I'd say that
Okay, there you go.
I'm not currently exhibiting racism. And the reason that I wanted to bring this up was because, I recognize that, like when I was 14, like saying that was like really bad. I also recognize that we should, not take that lightly, because as soon as we start taking, even like 14, 15, 16-year-olds saying slurs lightly, that kind of makes it socially acceptable for kids to slur because, oh, well, they're kids. But like, what I've done is I have not only like had character progression, I've changed as a person and apologized for those things, but then I actively advocate against them. And I'd say that's the big difference between like someone like me that has done bad things, like been racist and said slurs in their past, and Donald Trump with these related issues from 1992 and the early 2000s, is he hasn't. And then I also would say that, there is a difference between, saying slurs due to racist socialization, learning, changing, becoming a better
Wait, hold on.
14, 15, 16-year-olds saying slurs lightly, that kind of that I wanted to bring this up was because, I recognize that, like when I was 14, like saying that
Why did they blur that out? Because he said the N-word? Or did he say the N-word? It's fine. Look, I want people to change and grow too, and obviously we have to create an opportunity for that to happen. I just think he's not grown yet or ready, but I think that's the point of growing up on the internet as well. I'll link his video if you guys want to check it out. I'm definitely not subscribing. Like, he's too young. He's not his ideas aren't well thought out enough for me. I get it. It's what it is. But I think there is something to be said about like just recognizing who you're watching as well. And not yourself getting activated at like people's bad arguments because of like who they are and what they're saying. Like, it's one thing to feel annoyed and it's one thing to feel offended, because you should feel offended, like in a principled sense. But also to recognize like, how do we prevent this? What is this? And I just think like Dean's decision to join YouTube and this is the content he decided to put out is just another indication that like, you're not ready. You're not grown. You're not ready. But he's trying to do it. He's trying to make money. He's trying to make it, I see him on my TikTok live. Every time I'm scrolling and he shows up, I'm like, this guy is always live, bro. It's fine. But what we're trying to do here is observe where he's at and process it for what it is. I don't know. I just felt silly, but I had a feeling. I just wanted to talk about it because I was like, I have a feeling that exactly the reason I think this is not good content is the title alone is going to, prove my point.